Hello, my sunshine, and welcome to a new episode of the Hawker Morning Podcast. I'm so excited to have you here. And in this episode, I'm going to talk a little bit about my life and my recent learnings, but more I want to talk about like your intuition but I will get into all of that. Before I get started with that, I wanted to tell you a quick story because, as you know, I often start my podcast episodes by opening this book that I have on a random page and reading to you an affirmation or a quote that is in there. And actually, the book that I was always reading to you I got from a friend, and now I recently met her again, and she gave me another book from the same author, and this made me so happy. So thank you, Sari, if you're listening to this right now. It's the book Spiritual Growth, Being Your Higher Self, again from Sanaya Roman. I just really love her books. I'm not that far yet, but I'm still getting there, and I feel like reading through this book, I'm learning so much. Like, I'm always there with my marking, is that the right word? Like, I don't know, putting the marker on the things that I find really interesting. And I want to read out to you, I think, a couple of quotes in there, or just, those aren't even quotes, just parts of the book, because maybe you need this as your reminder for today. If you're trying to create something and you must struggle, push, and work hard to force things to happen with little result, you're not following the higher will. And basically in this book, it is talking a lot about like energy and your higher self and this light energy, and how sometimes like when you're so much like in this, you're pushing yourself kind of energy, you're not seeing where you actually want to go, if that makes sense. And sometimes when you are just so stuck in where you are right now, you need to stop. And somewhere in the beginning there was also a different like line that I found really interesting and also applicable for my situation, because it reminded me of something. So I also want to read this out loud to you, okay? If one area of your life is stuck, unhappy, or doesn't work, it will affect every other area of your life. It will no longer work to ignore those areas of your life you do not want to deal with. If you don't like your job, or having trouble with a relationship, or live in an unsupportive environment, that will dampen your aliveness in every other area. And I don't know if this also speaks to you, but it really spoke to me, because recently there was an area where I just feel like this is pulling my energy down on so many like levels, and it is affecting my whole life. And so I really enjoy this book right now, getting into my energy and realizing the things that I need to change, and doing this through energy work and light work. And I'm still getting into light work. I haven't done a lot of that so far, but it all sounds really interesting to me. But let's maybe now get more into the topic of this week's episode. I think a week ago, I was actually sick. Typical fall. Like, fall is just typical for that you get sick. But basically right after that, I don't know, I felt so stressed about so many different topics in my life right now. This episode is especially for all the empaths, people pleaser, if you're highly sensitive or anything like that, because it's so interesting when I talk to someone I know, like they're just not that affected by the emotions of other people, but like even when I have calls with my clients, like the energy that is in there, like I really mirror it. And it's just like, I don't know, when I hear sad stories, it is like I'm living through them with them. And when I hear good stories, like I feel emotions on such a deep level. And I know people are different, like some people do not feel, like they're more like on a neutral space, but I feel emotions very, very intense. And that's why it is also so important for me to take time for myself, to process all the emotions and to get back to myself. And a week ago, like, my family was visiting, my nephew was here. It was just a whole lot of things. I did not have my space to do my morning yoga because my 2.5-year-old nephew wanted to join me. And normally I meditate after my yoga, but I also wasn't able to manage that. And basically within like 1 or 2 weeks, so many things have happened that were just on my mind. Some things about my business, about my personal life, about things I want to change, and thinking about, well, this is my vision, but I'm not here yet. And sometimes when you start to get like into the spiral, it really gets worse and worse and worse. And I remember it was the weekend and my boyfriend asked me what I'm planning to do next week for work. Like, what are my business steps? Because we often like talk about those kinds of things, but somehow this question overwhelmed me so much in this moment, because I felt just so overwhelmed by everything that I, quote unquote, need to get done, that I should do or that I could do. And I have realized that I have spent now so much time with people and with getting so much input from outward. Like, I got so many opinions, I heard so many also sad things that happened in people's lives, and it really made me feel so overwhelmed and overstimulated, and like everything was too much. And I feel like this is where I really need to take care to still like get into my feminine energy, and actually, instead of thinking I have so many things to get done and now I'm sitting down and I'm doing all the things, which will actually make me feel worse, I need to, like, whenever I feel this overwhelmed, overstimulated, stressed and all that, for me, I need to take a step back. I need to go for a walk. I need to connect with my inner self. And it is especially when I spend too much time with people and it is just everything too much, and it feels like I am too little and everything else is too much. And I feel like this, I don't know if you feel like this right now, but instead of forcing yourself and pushing yourself to take all the steps and do all the things, I think it's so important to take a moment to pause. I'm sorry. I forgot to switch off my phone. What is happening? No, you see, that is I should actually switch off my phone more often, thinking about that. But what I wanted to say is, I think it's so important that you create the space for yourself and that you create space of silence, because especially as women, I feel like we tend to have a lot of thoughts in our heads and so many things are going on. And when we're trying to fall asleep, we think about 20 more situations, everything that happened today. We play the conversations again. We think about what we could have done differently and what we need to get done tomorrow. And especially for a mind that is this chaotic, or like there's so many thoughts, it's so important that we create this time to just have peace, to just be in silence, to just sit with us. And something that I also really like to do when I like really create this time of silence, sometimes I feel like I first give myself the space for a lot of thoughts to come up, for everything to just be there. And then I like to take a couple of minutes to brain dump everything on paper. So I'm just writing everything down. So I have kind of the feeling like, okay, I have this now somewhere. It's like saved somewhere, but I don't have to worry about it anymore. Because often when we're only thinking about things, we get very overwhelmed because we don't fact check basically our thoughts. And especially if they're like fears, we're just getting more and more worried without realizing, okay, this worry doesn't really make sense. So I think this is why it is so important to either sometimes have conversations about what you think about or what is on your mind, or to journal about it, or to like make a voice message for yourself. and to just create this time of silence where you can connect with your inner self and you can connect with your why and with your vision and realize again why you're even here and what is your purpose here on earth. Because when we get too overwhelmed, too overstimulated, too stressed, we start to worry about things that don't even matter. We start to think about so many things that don't even matter, and we forget the bigger picture. And I feel like those times of silence and those times for yourself are so necessary. And also, like, if you are a mom, if you are a parent, it is so important to have, you're like a role model for your kids. And for you to say, okay, this is now a little bit of mommy time, is so important for their development to see, okay, mommy is also making herself a priority. Maybe when they're super small, they don't understand it yet, but they will. And that's why it's also important to have the right people around you that support you with connecting to your intuition, connecting to your source of energy. So this is for anyone who is a people pleaser, empath, who just sometimes feels overwhelmed and stressed. Instead of pushing yourself and trying to get everything done, maybe try to pause. Try to pause, go out to nature, take a few deep breaths. And something that tends to happen to me sometimes, because I really like to go for walks, but I do very fast walks. Like, I'm a fast walker. And I feel like sometimes I'm just like, I'm then going for my walk and I have the feeling, okay, on this walk, I'm listening to this podcast, I'm doing maybe listening to this song, and I want to have a call and send a voice message. This is not the purpose of this walk. First, connect to the goal that you want to have with that. Like, really, I don't know, look inwards, find that moment within yourself, because as I already said 1,000 times, you have to make yourself a priority. And when you are taking care of yourself, you have so much more energy to help the people around you and to make the world a better place. But if you forget about yourself, that's not going to work out. It's just not going to work out. So yeah, I hope you take this as a sign to create some time of silence for you today. And I know sometimes it's difficult to do that, because especially in the times of silence, all the intense emotions come up. Maybe your fears, maybe your real emotions. Often us just doing things all the time and working so hard and meeting so many people is just a way to not having to feel emotions. But I can guarantee you one thing: by repelling your emotions and not allowing yourself to feel it, you just make it worse. And once you have allowed yourself to feel, you will also allow yourself to feel this peace that you wouldn't be able to feel otherwise. Yeah? Okay, I hope you could take something out of this episode. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love if you could rate this podcast, or if you can like share it with a friend if you think they would really benefit from this podcast. And as always, for any episode recommendations, anything like this, please DM me on Instagram at greta.webhofer, at greta.webhofer. It always means the world to me when I get messages from you that you enjoy my podcast. This is what is my driving force behind doing what I do. So thank you so much, and please take care of yourself, and I'll talk to you soon.